Good afternoon, everybody, or actually good morning, depending on where you are. We're about to start. We're just letting our attendees roll into the room right now. So as folks are still rolling in, just to start off with a few announcements as we typically do. First of all, I'm Matthew Saha from the Not-for-Profit Industry Group. I'm the industry practice leader. And I thank you for joining us for the 6th of our 8 sessions for this year's annual Not-for-Profit Seminar. Again, to receive CPE credits, I think we've figured this out pretty well so far, but you will need to answer at least 3 polling questions. There will be 4 polling questions in the entire presentation, so okay to miss one, but try to get back to your computer to hit on those, at least 3 of those. We have had a couple of errors with when we launch a couple of the poll questions over a couple of the seminars. So if you do get an error where you can't click on a poll result, we will pick up on that right away and we will close the poll and relaunch that polling question. So far, that seems to have fixed the issue for us. So just know if you get any sort of polling error, we'll get that fixed right away and we'll get that relaunched. Of course, we know everyone is here that wants CPE credit, so your CPE will be issued to you within 10 days of the culmination of the seminar. Look out for that to hit your email inbox. If you have any issues, you can contact us at cbhlearning@cbh.com for any follow-up. A lot of people are asking if we're sending out slides. We will not send out individual slide decks for the presentations, but we will be posting the recording of each of these sessions to our website. So that link will be emailed to you as well. You'll be able to reference it. You'll be able to fast forward and zoom back and forth. You can't get additional CPE credit for watching the recording, but it is just for your reference. And then you can go to whatever slide you might want to refer to just on demand. And then finally, again, I think people have figured this out, but try to direct questions to the Q&A pod at the bottom of your screen. That's the best place to get that in front of myself and Dixie for us to get that question answered for you. But we do like to see the discussion on the chat tab, and that's been very active the last few sessions. So please feel free to use the chat tab to poke fun at me, ask me if I have any dad jokes, whatever it might be. I'm happy to chit chat on the chat tab. And then if you do ask a question there, I might ask you to post it over on the Q&A tab as well. So with that, that's all of our housekeeping items. And we've got a great session here for you. And this is a topic that continues to come up with a lot of our clients. And that is, as we deal with sort of the staffing challenges that the pandemic has brought to us all, is now the right time to consider outsourced accounting for my organization? And so we're very honored to have Dixie McCurley. Dixie is the leader of our Cherry Bekaert's very newly established client accounting services group, our CAS group. And she has a long history of doing just this. So Dixie, please, if you would, just tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background before you came to Cherry Bekaert, and what it is you do in this area, because we value your expertise. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Matthew. Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. As Matthew said, we're going to talk about today outsourced accounting. And I really want you to walk away and understand after the webinar, why would you want to? Related to who am I and why am I talking about outsourced accounting? I started my career at Earthlink, and at the time it was the #2 internet service provider. While I was there, I helped them acquire, I was the lead point on acquiring 38 different accounting departments. And so having to go in and understand all of the processes from an HR perspective, payroll, and also accounting, I quickly learned the power of the general ledger. And I learned the power of processes and how to do all those things. With all of that, it was always a challenge with the people. So as people in the staff of the accounting department grew and changed and transformed, and from the role of staff accountant, even up to senior accountant and controller and assistant controller and revenue clerk, et cetera. I like to say what I learned there was how to build a world-class accounting department. With that, I went to a CPA firm afterwards. And at a CPA firm, when we're servicing clients, we've so often been focused on the compliance part of it. So that is a big part of it, of course. But the thing that was always missing is, why aren't we able to be advisors more to our clients to help? You know, with not-for-profits, you're struggling with resources, et cetera. And what you need is some help. And so with all of that, realized that I wanted to do it my own way. So I started a company 10 years ago to do outsourced accounting for our clients, to be able to help them supplement what they had or what they needed. And so it wasn't a staffing company because we used our own tech stack, et cetera. But then with all of that, wanting to do it now at a firm, I am honored to be here at Cherry Bekaert this year. I made a big move to come over to build a practice at one of the top 20 firms in the nation. And so what I want to share with you are what the profession in general, our firm is going through transformation as well. What does that look like? I'm a part of digital advisory. And in digital advisory, we're focusing on digital transformation. So systems, processes, strategies, all of those things. I now have at my fingertips those business insights in terms of business intelligence. So those programs, we're putting all of those together to help supplement your accounting department. So what you're going through with a not-for-profit of trying to, tie systems together, et cetera, all of those things we see clients struggle with. And so we're building that enterprise level accounting department so that you can come in and take a piece of what you need from our team that all works together. So that's who I am, sort of why I'm here. I really am very passionate about not-for-profits and helping all of you leaders be that transformative leader. And so just in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to identify, some of the benefits and the barriers of why you would want to outsource. Talk about some of the good things and some of the bad things. I'll share with you some of our stories over the years with some of our clients. Also understand how cloud technology platforms are going to continue to scale and continue to support your organization's growth. So many companies right now, organizations are going through massive growth, massive scale. You've got to have those tech platforms in place. The pandemic for sure changed the way we work. It changed the way we work forever. So more than ever, clients don't want to do it themselves. And so to recognize the value of outsourcing to a team of professionals, we're going to talk about all of that and how it can enhance your current accounting team and your strategic capabilities there. So let's get started. We'd love to ask you a question. I would like to see where we are in terms of how many team members does your accounting department need to perform all the necessary functions that you have?
Yes, and we have a variety here. Hi, everybody. Hey, Dixie. We are just collecting our poll questions. Looks like 67%. Ooh, that number keeps climbing. So we are getting all of those responses in. Is it 1 to 2, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, or do you think you need more than 10 people to make sure that all of the duties are performed and all of those necessary functions are taken care of? So we are going to give you guys about 40 more seconds here to respond to our poll. Just a reminder, this is for CPE purposes, so make sure you are participating in our polls throughout the morning. Looks like we're getting a good turnout though right now.
Great. Now that I see this question and how everybody is responding to it, it brings up another question for me, is not only how many team members does your accounting department need, but how many do you want it to have? That's really insightful here to see that most people think that you need 3 to 5 people in your accounting department. So 41%. It's amazing. It's one of the first questions that I ask when clients come in and need help, for sure. How many current people do you have? How many do you need? Usually I see when you've got 3 to 5 people that sometimes you need 10, or those 3 to 5 people are playing the role of those 10 people. So how do you have, an AR person who's making sure that the money coming in from the donors or from grants or from funds or any of that stuff, how do we get there? So 3 to 5 people in your accounting department. I'm going to assume if any of you would like to put into the chat that are in that 3 to 5 bucket right now, how many you want? Do you want more? Do you want less? We see that you may also want to be lowering that and working with a partner like us. So that is so great. So we're going to end the poll right now.
And it looks like we have, most of you are saying about 3 to 5 people. So yep, what Dixie said, we'd love to hear from you. Type something out inside of our chat or our Q&A box so we can hear a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd love to know if people need more people or if they need less people. What we're hoping to do is convey just understanding the types of outsourcing that is available. Not necessarily what we're doing, because what we're doing is a business process outsourcing for client accounting services. And so you can have comprehensive outsourcing. That comprehensive part is the one where you're going to have someone that takes over everything. Now, that doesn't always work for clients. I mean, it doesn't work for your organizations all the time. That's the hard part of those war stories that we hear from clients where they just turned everything over and it didn't work. And so then you had to bring it back in-house or hire another person, or it never worked right. However, it is one option to comprehensively outsource it. The next one is that selective function. So I have been talking with partners, especially even Matthew, about when clients need help with the accounts payable function. So what are we going to do related to how we pay the bills and automating that part? So you can just do to an external provider. It could be a long-term strategy that you don't want an accounting accounts payable clerk anymore if you have that in your 3 to 5 person accounting department. I'm guessing if you've got 3 to 5 people, usually it's one person highly focused on accounts payable. Are we making, the approvals that we need to make, et cetera? So we want to create things that work for the industry of not-for-profit. So who are you paying? Who needs to be approving it, et cetera? So putting controls around that with not only the people doing the processes, but having documentation there. So policy documentation, et cetera, and having a tech stack that works really well for you. All of those things are what we're talking about today, is selective outsourcing. You may be much more familiar with hiring a contractor. So oftentimes we get calls that says, hey, we just lost a controller. Can you guys just come in and do the controller function for 6 weeks or 6 months? Now, this is what I've done a lot of in my career. I've worked with over 35 different systems and general ledger systems or ERP systems, and on hundreds of clients, gone in and helped when they lost a controller. So come in, look at everything, do a good assessment. And this is the contracting piece of it. So you could do hourly or daily or weekly or monthly. But going in and setting all those processes up and then hiring a team, maybe putting in a new system, oftentimes in another year or two, the organization comes back and says, we didn't do everything related to how it was set up, and now we need some more help. And so going back in on that contracting, it just was never really rewarding for me personally in my career. So I want an option where we're with you year round, actually. Also, a lot of times you just need to license some of the things. So maybe you need automated accounts payable, or have an approval process where you're just licensing with us. And that's, you're just paying a price or a subscription. Right now, we're looking at how do we build insights to be data driven. And so those dashboards now with Power BI, et cetera, we're looking at the industry niche for not-for-profits. And to do that, we'll talk more about that over the next several minutes and over this next hour about how we're gonna look at licensing options. So those are the 4 ways and the 4 types of outsourcing that you can think about, that when you're moving forward and needing help, either of these may work for you. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the benefits versus the barriers. So what are the barriers to outsourcing and what are the benefits? Well, some of the barriers may be that your team and your board of directors are getting that buy-in of you actually need help and we can outsource that. That can be a big barrier. Instead, the benefit is that you've got access to a full team of specialists. So I talk about sometimes you may need a little bit of a CFO, but how could you hire a full CFO? You may need a little bit of a controller, but maybe you don't have the funds to hire a full controller. And you may need a little bit of a bookkeeper or those clerks. So those are the barriers, is that usually we see organizations want to hire that type of person because they're used to that, but all of that has really changed. And so to have access to a full team of specialists, we've got IT technologists, we've got business intelligence and data scientists. And so we're putting together that full suite of specialists to be able to help for all of those little things that you need and give you back your time. So in terms of the current technology stack, you may be stuck with something that's not working for you, or maybe it's not connected to all the things that you need it to be connected to. But when you've got a flexible team, we can change with you. Oftentimes, you may have purchased a software and you've outgrown it. Oftentimes, you've purchased one and it doesn't really work for what you thought. But we're going to put together that tech stack that flexes and changes with you. So once we see it over and over and over again, client after client after client, we then become the one that goes, okay, this size of an organization, this one's better for it. So we're going to help you select that. So there's a lot of barriers, I'm sure, with your current tech stack, but if you've got a flexible team, it's going to change with you as you change. Also, some of the barriers is that you've got a manual hands-on process. And with that Excel sheet, that manual process, we've seen over the last few years, especially, that paper is all going away. That can be a big barrier, though, is that no, it has to be done this way. It's all manual. So as we get into stop the manual and get it into an automated cloud-based system, it's going to increase your organizational power. You're going to be able to do other things besides the clerk work. So we polled CFOs and accounting people in not-for-profits, and 75% of them said that, 81% said that 75% of their day is done with manual hands-on processes. So if any of you think that that's a good percentage of how much time you spend every day on manual hands-on processes, that it's waste, put that into the chat too. My experience is that it's usually 50%. So I talk about if you've got daily cash receipts that you're monitoring, or how you're bringing in the cash, you may be recording that in a couple of hours. So look at and analyze what are the barriers there that we've got to get out of that manual process and increase your power to do more. Also, just understanding the short-term and the long-term goals. You know, if you have a short-term goal or a long-term goal, if you've got a long-term goal to grow a lot, if you want to double in the next 3 years, you're going to need capacity for that. So we can help supplement your team. We can help supplement those systems, et cetera. And so that additional capacity for growth, that's that big benefit that you're going to get from outsourcing. Now,
Dixie, question for you, kind of relating to some of the barriers you were just discussing that we got in. A lot of people, a lot of not-for-profits obviously strapped for resources, maybe already operating with less people than they'd like to in their accounting group. Should outsourcing be seen as a solution to solve a accounting function that is currently in a bit of disarray? Maybe things are a mess. There's been some turnover in maybe the CFO role or the controller. Is that a good time to reach out to someone like you? Or is it better to have things in a certain state of stability before you consider outsourcing? I think a lot of times when I'm talking to board members, they think, let's just outsource this. That's the solution to the problem. How should not-for-profits be thinking about this?
I think about it when I want to hire a stylist because I really want my closet to be full of all the beautiful clothes that I want to wear. It's really hard to think about bringing a stylist in to see my clothes the way that they are today. And I have never encountered a client that brought in their accounting department. I'm going to do this, a box with a bow on top, to say, we do everything so perfectly. Could you guys please just take it over, because it's so wonderfully presented. So I've never seen that happen. In fact, usually it is a mess. And that's what I want to convey, is that it's okay where you are today. It's absolutely okay. I see that oftentimes most clients underfund their accounting department. And so we look at and analyze where are you trying to go? And then what do we need to get there? We're going to put that plan together with you, because change doesn't happen overnight. So you can't go from the messy set of books and the messy reports and those Excel spreadsheets and voila, in 30 days, it all looks better. So we talk about month one. So month one, when you outsource to us, you're going to get mostly the same thing that you got. And then by month 3, our clients go, oh, okay, now I've learned the system. Can it do this? You go, yes, that's better. And then in 6 months, they go, how did I ever live without you guys? So we partner together to say what you need, what we offer, and give you the resources to supplement to be able to grow. So it's flexible over time. After a year, that's when you go, oh, now I get why we built this foundation. And now we're ready to add the framing to it. So that's when we go up. We go up after a year, and you go, now I see all those things come together. So it happens over time. Change management is a big part of that. And we're doing it client by client. And so the reasons why to outsource, there's going to be 3 reasons. So team, tech, time is the 3 T's. So you're going to get a team based on what you need. So if your critical business transactions have to happen more efficiently, we think that our team usually can give you 50 to 75% efficiency in those core tasks. So that team is really, really important. The tech part, we've got solutions that we know work with what size you are, what people you have, et cetera. So that tech is going to be a better tech stack. It's going to include those things that maybe you haven't learned yet about business intelligence and key metrics. The whole point of this is to give you time. So when you have time, you can turn into that better finance leader that I'm sure you all want to do, instead of just entering in all that stuff. So related to the team, our team is going to look like an accounting department, and it's going to flex with you. So in most accounting department, those team roles and responsibilities, from CFO to payroll to staff accountant, that finance daily reporting, month-end close, et cetera, all those things, you've got to put together a really good team to be able to do that. So sometimes you need a system designer to make these workflows better, to connect the systems in. We've got that. Your users are very important. So that system administration, I have a rule. I don't let anyone add a new general ledger code, because it blows up the reporting part. So you've got to have that system admin that really understands if you've got a donor structure, or if you've got those, number of clinicians and all of those things. So this is what we're putting together in terms of an outsourcing package, is all of those roles coming together, working with you to be able to supplement or enhance or replace something that you may need help with. So let's go to our polling question number 2. Love to get your feedback again, make this interactive. So what's the main challenge today for you not-for-profits finance leaders?
All right, and it looks like we are already starting to hear from folks. We are at 37% of you who have participated so far. Oh, and I am seeing a front runner. So here's your options: lack of real-time visibility into key metrics, complex and error-prone manual work and spreadsheets, lack of integration between critical applications, or, all of the above. Do they all sound like some main challenges that you guys are facing? So we're going to give you guys about 20 more seconds to get your responses in. Just a reminder, this is for CPE purposes. This is our way of telling, hey, were you part of our meeting? Were you engaged? We love to hear from you guys.
Today I'm in Nashville, and I've been at the Digital CPA conference since Sunday. We've been taking these polls out of the 500 finance leaders that are here, people that do the work that I do as well. And it's amazing that they're all saying the same thing. It's all 3 of these, really, that all of the above, and split across that you need to be able to, you're challenged every single day as finance leaders with all of these things. So the manual stuff is just, amazing. So we've got to get you into that real-time visibility.
Yes, for sure. We had about 50% of you say all of the above.
Yeah, great. Well, what's great about that is we're on track with what your main challenges are. And that's why my point is that we hear you. You are all stuck in those ways. So in terms of the second reason why to outsource, we're going to talk a little bit now just about technology and what that looks like. I think that you've got a plan for tomorrow to be able to talk about where you're growing. Are you going to do more? How can you double? All of that stuff. The automation tools today are really amazing. That's what I meant about why I love being a part of the digital advisory space, because we've got those experts to help us with automation. So I don't know about you, but month-end close and account reconciliations and doing all of that takes so much time. We hear on average that it takes between 21 days, and the other day I just heard someone say it takes me 45 days to get it closed. And putting together an automated tool that goes in daily, weekly, etc., that's going to make your month-end close a whole lot better. We're seeing new things with machine learning and building bots. That's what we're working on. We've got the resources to be able to do that. So we're going to optimize your digital technology experience. We're going to be the experts when you call in and say, I've got a new system that just does this, but it doesn't connect to the other place. We've got an outsourced chief information officer or a chief technology officer to outsource also to come in to look at, did you select the right software, etc. And then put together a plan if you didn't, or if you need to select the right software. We're going to put together that strategic roadmap to be able to do that. So technology is a big part of all of this. If you're not in the cloud today, I would say that you are so far behind, which is why you're in all of those manual processes. So everything is definitely cloud. So think about that. The second reason, tech is definitely cloud. So you've got to be in the cloud to be connected with these open APIs to remove all of those manual processes. So in terms of why does it matter? Instead of a proactive mindset, your organization is just reactive to the winds and waves of circumstance. So you're usually looking backwards. And looking backwards is not being able to plan forward. So how can you do a forecast when you're just barely able to close the books looking backward, or if it's late? And also, if your accounting and finance efforts are fragmented, they're not tied to operational improvement. So the number one thing related to the drivers of more revenue in your organization are your number of customers, or number of donors, or number of clients, or number of all that. How can you talk about, the where you need to be in terms of your budget and your forecast if you don't have it tied to the operational statistics? So those are the basics of the non-financial information. And so it's really hard to do the daily work. So in terms of an on-site staff or a staff internally, those hires, they don't have the insights and experiences that are required to be able to elevate and scale your business by being from a chief technology officer, a chief information officer. Talk about cyber. One of our other partners, he was here at the Digital CPA conference as well, talking about cyber. So CFOs are now faced with all of this data moving to the cloud. Where is it? You've got to be that cyber officer as well. So the technology part, all of that really matters to be able to help you in your finance leadership role. Do it better with a team. So in terms of who's going to benefit from this, by adding a team and having better technology, you're going to be able to do more analysis and advisory work. Also, the profitability analysis. So are these, where are we on these funds? Where are we going in terms of profitability? Are we making money? Are we still having to put money in? And then the cash forecasting piece of this. When the pandemic hit, all of our clients started calling. Our phones rang off the hook. I'm sure all of you called into your CPA firms as well, because you needed to know if PPP funds were available or not. And that cash forecasting, everyone asked, how long is this going to last? So what I've been working on the last 6 months is a cash forecasting tool, because I know that we've got to know the money coming in and the money going out. Are we going to have a shortfall in 2 weeks? So we're building right now a 13-week cash forecasting modeler so that we can add that piece as a digital tool to our organizations and those clients that we help. The whole part about getting up to date and in real time, also, you can do that tax planning. If you're going to be merging with anyone else or acquiring more things, that all is facilitated with the use of cloud technology. And additionally, we've got a process improvement department. I work with Jim Holman, and he is all about process and improvement. And so there's a whole role about how do we do business process and automation. We're doing that right now with how we're going to build better accounting departments for clients. It's all wrapped up related to how you use the technology and how you can have a team. So in terms of some of just the metrics, go ahead.
Can I ask a couple of questions that have come in, Dixie?
Sure.
Thank you. So one, with regards to the technology, and maybe you could talk about, how you're structuring things with Cherry Bekaert and CAS and maybe some of your prior experience. But we know that a lot of outsourced firms, obviously want you to either be on or convert to their technology platform. Is that in the outsourced environment that we live in from an accounting standpoint, should people be ready to be sort of forced into that decision when they go to outsourcing, or is there more than one option, or just what does that typically look like?
Yes, usually you're probably going to move tech stacks. The reason why is because if we build a team of people that had to know 5 or 10 different systems, that's that old mentality of contractor, right? So if you're hiring a contractor, that's that third part of the type of outsourcing. You don't just want a contractor that's going to only do it your way. The way that we build a team that all of you can afford, the way that we can do it is that we standardize. So we standardize, but we also cater to those micro verticals. So in terms of if you do community health or a clinician, et cetera, we're going to make sure that the industry focus is there. And so, yes, you do need to let go of the old methods and those old systems, which is why you're in what we call manual spreadsheet hell, because you've got to go to better systems that are open, connected, work with the other tools that we see that clients are demanding that we provide for them. So great question.
Well, our last session was talked about manual spreadsheet hell as well when we were talking about endowment accounting. So very applicable. I guess one more question too we had come in. Just as far as how outsourced firms typically set up their practice, would most of the people be remote workers in this kind of, I won't even call it post-COVID, but we're still going through it. Would you expect most of your people, on your outsourced team to be located all over the country, or are you organizing with, hey, it's the Raleigh office versus the Charlotte, how's that look?
Well, the war for talent is real. Today, this week, I've heard so many times about the Great Resignation. And so we have to get top talent. Top talent may not be located physically or regionally nearby. And so that's the thing, is that our clients can't even find top talent near them. The war for talent is real. So the accounting profession in general, we're seeing, a lot more demand than we have supply of accountants. So for me personally, in building a practice, it used to be 10 years ago that we needed to manage people by being located together, but it's just not true anymore. So for over 10 years, I've managed a remote workforce in terms of they are virtual in Chicago, in Arizona, in Atlanta, based in Louisiana. The reason why all of that happened is because they had to put in their notice because they got married or their parents went through something. And so they wanted to leave because, we were physically based in an office in one location. But when you've got someone so trained in all these systems and knowing how to do this, you have to say, I can't lose you. You can move because now we're all in the cloud. So we're all in the cloud now. You guys aren't in person with me. It works just fine. It's the same thing, moving to the cloud. That technology is going to open it up for you to have more of these things here, be able to analyze more. So great question. In terms of the technology and what it looks like, my whole point about non-financial data is very, very important. Oftentimes, when you run your financial statements, it doesn't include the number of patients served, but that really is what matters the most. So we are making sure that no matter what industry niche or micro vertical of a not-for-profit, that you know what that looks like. Now, this is just an example in terms of a community health, number of patients that we served, number of office visits, the number of clinicians, and then revenue per clinician. These are just the basics that we would help set up the 4 metrics that we would marry into the financial data. Usually that stuff's all in Excel. And with Excel, you can't look at and consolidate it all in one place. Probably takes you a long time to look at all of this part together. And that's that manual spreadsheet hell. Instead, we're going to connect into those systems of record. So when you have the source transaction, when you can get to it with your little digital tool, and when we can get those non-desktop versions and get it into the cloud, we can go in with open APIs, we can pull that data, and we're going to be the washing machine. So data comes from a whole lot of sources these days. You might have 2 or 3 or 4 different systems where you need to go get information. If you just pull that in and you start reporting on that data, it may not be structured right. It may not be accurate. So we're creating the accounting department, the outsourced accounting department, like a washing machine. So we're going to wash that data with our formulas, with our metrics. We're going to clean it up, make sure it's accurate, real time, reconciled to the bank, reconciled to all of those schedules, have proof there, documentation, et cetera. We're going to spit out the reports that you need to then help your organization. And that's the big part about getting out of the manual processes and outsourcing it to us to have better systems, to be able to get to these numbers, which is what makes all the difference. How many more patients do we need to serve? How much funding do we need for that? Those are the questions that you need to be asking. So time for our polling question number 3. So where do you currently spend the majority of your time?
All right. And we were talking about where do people spend the majority of their time physically? This is a little bit different. So we are asking, is it strategic analysis and vision, or do you think you spend most of it in training and team development, maybe data process and review, or is it something else? So we would love to hear from all of you. This is for CPE purposes. And Dixie, I'm sure this is a topic that came up during the conference here in Nashville earlier this week.
Yes, absolutely. We're calling it Finance Leadership 3.0. How can you get out of that number 3 that we see right there, that data processing and review? How can you automate all of those tasks? That's what outsourcing to us is going to help you do. We are automating those tasks by using a good team and technology so that you can have your time to do that strategic analysis and visioning, or do some training and team development or other things besides the data processing.
Absolutely. How can you take that time you would have spent somewhere else and reposition it into where you can really help develop people? So we are giving you, we are just going to end that poll right now, and I'll share some results. So it does look like a majority of your time right now is spent with data process and review. And we had 21% with strategic analysis, and a few of you said training and team development or something else. So if you did pick something else, feel free to type that into our chat box so we can see where else, a majority of your time is being spent.
Yeah, so this makes sense because the 3 to 5 people, we probably have a lot of CFOs in here who are in that 21% of strategic analysis and visioning. So that's great. What we've got to do is take that data processing. This number here, the 63%, it doesn't surprise me at all. We see that number usually at about 75% are spending in the majority of your time in data processing. So you guys are already ahead of the curve on this. All right, so let's talk about the third reason, the third T about why to outsource. So it's all about you having more time so that you can work on the organization. You can work on the things that you want instead of managing an accounting department, of moving data from here to there into Excel, having to figure it all out, not having a data warehouse, et cetera. The whole point of this is really so that you can get your time back. So 81% of CFOs believe that they are not keeping up with the pace of change well enough. You know, I have to put myself in this bucket, even though I have been working for 10 years on cutting edge technology. I still think that the pace of change is so rapid right now with technology that what we're doing today is going to look completely different in the next 3 to 5 years. So to be able to keep up with that, you're going to need help. And that's what we're building, is an outsourced model of reliable professionals and a level of expertise catering to the industry of not-for-profits, which I had another, just a picture in my head. There are all kinds of micro verticals underneath that. And so you're going to have all those statistics that are going to look a little bit different for each one of your not-for-profits. And so we've got to be able to keep up with the pace of change to give you what you need to get you out of those manual spreadsheets. Because the whole point of this is that the nonprofit finance leaders, you've got to become more data driven. And so on the left, we see that traditionally your time is allocated 25% of it as the leader and being forward-looking and strategic. But what you all want to be able to do is spend 50% of your time being the leader and forward-looking and strategic. Okay, in terms of being the protector, there's no surprises there. You know, spending 20% of your time making sure that everything is right and no one's getting surprised by what's happening. But instead, that fast and accurate accountant, you're spending 50% of your time on that. We need to lower that by outsourcing to 30% so we can shift the role of the finance leaders in nonprofit organizations. There's 3 key components to that: the people, the processes, and also the technology. And so you need all of that put together to be able to get you into that 50% of your time in that forward-looking strategic role. And so how are we going to do that? How are we going to turn you into that finance leader that spends 50% of their time on strategy and on where you're going? Well, we're going to standardize it. So outsourcing and having standard accounting tasks where we see it client to client to client, that's where we're going to get a lot of rapid improvement with you, helping guide you on what we are already doing. In terms of if you're calculating revenue recognition in Excel, we've got to get you out of Excel. We've got to get you out of calculating the revenue recognition. That stuff should be push button. In terms of performing manual data reconciliations, we're installing month-end close software for our clients right now that are doing automated journal entries. So when we have a schedule that's tied out, reconciled, et cetera, the systems we're using and the accounting workflow, they're going to be entering those recurring journal entries. You're going to be able to review and approve those instead of actually having to do them yourselves. So the reconciliation part is where we see a lot of pickup in month-end close. So how do we do it faster? Well, with technology, with better processes, you should be able to do what's called continuous close. So can you get the books closed every day? Are you reconciling cash every day? Can you do it weekly? So we're putting together those options on how often does it need to be reconciled. So the options when you come with us, in terms of a fixed price per month, we're going to talk about the cadence. Is it daily reconciliations? Is it weekly or is it monthly? And if you've got to have month-end reconciliations faster, then we want to put you in the weekly bucket. So those are all the options. That's how we're going to get you to that 50% of a finance leader. Also, if you're calculating allocations using data that doesn't exist in traditional accounting systems, we can write the formulas that do that. So usually those allocations, you've got those inputs, you do a function, you do a formula, you do the washing machine, I call it, and then you're going to spit out, okay, we need to allocate it across these funds, or we need to allocate it across these clinics, or we need to allocate it across these things. There's systems out there now that does that. I can just tell you, for most of my finance career, when I was in industry, doing those allocations across different departments, doing those across different products that we sold, that part was so time consuming. It was why we had 55 people in our accounting and our finance department, because they were doing all of these manual things. Instead, the systems can be set up today to automatically do that. And instead, we can watch over those things. We can confirm with you that this is right, and you can see that information at your fingertips. So I think about it, if you can have over a cup of coffee in the morning, you can see all of that stuff being allocated and reconciled and done. That's a big part about how we're going to do it. We're going to use systems to do better processes. And so another big area is processing vendor payments. So how you do that, that's one of the first and easiest things to outsource, or processing vendor payments. The accounts payable function we see at most clients that are doing it themselves, they're wasting over $12,000 a year in check payments and mailing checks, etc. So if you haven't gotten into that automated accounts payable yet, that's one of the easiest areas to do. And we've got those people ready to be able to do it. So just in terms of supporting the organization growth, we're going to do it in the 3 ways. So this is the power of outsourcing. The power is going to be in having the team. So the first T, also the technology, the second T, and the whole point of all of it is to get your time back. So those are the 3 reasons, the major ones that you can take away of, I do actually need a team. It can't just be me. If you've got 3 to 5 people and you need 6 people, we're going to do those slices of those people. With the technology, the ability to slice and dice the data is usually why you go into Excel. So you go into Excel to slice and dice the data. But the way that dashboards work today, the way that you can pick and choose what you need to do and analyze the data, you've got to have a better tech stack. Now, I can just tell you that if I'm a controller at a company, sometimes the technology is going to cost $10,000 to $50,000, depending on what you need. And we're going to offer this in a subscription model. So each month, if you want to turn on one of the modules or have one of our tech stack, we're going to be able to license you that in ways that it would cost you so much more than doing it yourself. So that's a big part of it. And then, you know, it's not that you're going to get rid of your people in your accounting department per se. That might not be what it is. It might just be that we're going to shift what they're doing into more strategic roles to be able to do the stuff that brings in more cash, that brings in more funds, that brings in more things, so that you're not always having to, you know, coordinate the data. Instead, the data is there and right and ready for you, so that you can have time to not be spending those time on that manual task. So let's go for our polling question number 4. So we want to know from you, where could you use outsourcing support?
All right, everybody, this is our last poll for today. So go ahead and get your responses into us right now. We are already up to 72%. You guys are quick with the clicks this morning. I love it. Looking like we have a front runner, all of the above. Most people are leaning towards that. You know, that includes access to more robust financial team of financial support, greater innovation in technology, time back to focus on organizational strategy. And then, of course, like I said, we are seeing most of you guys vote for the last option. So I'm going to end that poll and share our results real quick. And there we go. We are coming towards the end of this session. Dixie, thank you so much. And we do have a few more things to mention. I'm going to stop sharing that poll right now. And thanks for all of your participation on those today.
Yeah, so based on this feedback on this poll, I mean, it sounds like we've nailed it. That's the stuff that you need, all of the above. You need that team, you need tech, and you need your time back, for sure. So a few years ago, Microsoft put out what was called a watershed study, and they talked about the future of outsourcing. And they said that by 2025, the outsourcing market is going to be $343 billion. And out of the top 5 outsourced services, hands down, number 1 was financial and accounting functions. So finance leaders, accounting leaders, where you're doing it in-house today, if you're not on trend, at least with some of that being outsourced, you're already behind. The study came out years ago. In terms of, you all probably, use human resources outsourcing for payroll. That is common. But what's coming is the finance and accounting function if you're not there already. In terms of knowledge processing and outsourcing as well, that chief learning officer, outsourcing that part. Outsource services for procurement and supply chain, everybody gets that and understands how that is. And also customer service. So if you've got an organization where you're outsourcing your customer service, those are going to be the top 5 outsourced services. And that's what we're building here at Cherry Bekaert. We're making sure that we are going to be ready for the future. So by 2025, when the outsourcing market is growing, you want to go to the firm that you trust. And so outsourcing your financial and accounting functions is coming. We're going to have the better team with a team of experts. So I've been talking a lot about the gig economy. Think about Uber, think about those gig things that happen, DoorDash, et cetera. We've all done all of that. Technology has changed the way that we live. That's what we're doing here, is that when you need an expert, and you need an expert as a service, or finance as a service, that's what we're building, and that's what we're offering in terms of our outsource. So it's not just those things that happened several years ago. This is not shipping off everything you do, offshore or overseas. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is finance as a service. So that accounting and financial function, to be able to have team members who are doing all of that for you so that you can become that financial leader 3.0, we call it. So just the outsourcing benefits for your future as the future finance professionals, the tactical part that you do every day. If you're on the left-hand side, when I talk about these and you're not on the right-hand side, that's the point where you've got to make a change or a decision of how can you get into that strategic role. So in terms of tactical, just a faster time to close, the strategic part of that is how do I increase in donors in our customer base, right? The tactical is how can we get faster or donor or customer reporting. Instead, the strategic part is how are we going to do that growth and that new grant funding. Okay, the tactical part is also a board book in minutes. When I met a CFO a couple of years ago, he told me that the reason why he wanted to outsource was because if he got a request for a report before 12 noon, that he couldn't get the board book back or the board packet back to the team before the next day. So he said, I'm already 4 hours behind because it takes me 4 hours to put it together with all of these reports. I have to update all of these Excel spreadsheets. And so the tactical part of outsourcing is that you're going to have a board book in minutes. What that's going to do is let you go into that strategic world. So millions increase in cash flow, right? That's the strategic goal. Where are you headed in the future? How are you going to be able to do it? In terms of just the tactical real-time access to financials, that's what I mean about that. Over a cup of coffee, you have real-time access to accurate financials. A lot of times when I go in to help clients, they may have 20 errors in their financial statements. I mean, it's usually a mess. So imagine having real-time access to accurate set. That's what we're building the team. They make sure it's accurate. If you're on a pace for daily, or if you're on a pace for accuracy each week or month, that real-time access can be so powerful. And then in terms of efficiencies, increasing, leading to benefiting programs, go and do more, run those benefiting programs, et cetera. That's really the way to go from tactical to strategic. So the 3 T's of outsourcing, that's what we've covered today. And so at this point, I'll open it up. I would love for any of you that have any questions, please put them in the chat. Also, give us some feedback about what you're thinking. What did you expect today in the webinar. What did you learn? I'd love to get some chat and some feedback back on that too.
All right. Thank you so much, Dixie. We've gone about 5 minutes over our time. So I think we've answered most of the questions live, and please do feel free to reach out to myself or to Dixie if you want to continue this conversation. I know it's a hot topic item for a lot of you. And as a reminder, yeah, that survey feedback will be coming to you. It's in the chat window right now. So you can click on that link in the chat window to get to the survey. Also, as soon as we hit end on this seminar, it's going to bring you to SurveyMonkey as well. That's your second opportunity. And then we will also email it out later as well, just so you don't miss it. But with that, thank you so much, Dixie, for the time and taking time out of a conference that you're attending to do another conference.